Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the doctor himself.
Yeah, tits out, bits out.
Show me your food, boobies. Give me that smoked
before we started recording. Yeah, I basically posited that you could make a fancy restaurant sound trashy if you just replace the word breast with tits. Yeah, can I have the braised duck tits? And then we literally laughed about that for 9 minutes.
Yep. Oh, those chicken jugs were juicy as hell.
I was at the grocery store today. They had a great price on chicken jugs. You know, I'm going to get a shaved turkey bazonga sandwich.
Those pheasant cannons were great.
Pheasant cannons. Oh, God.
Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you. Pardon? You got one more?
I mean...
No? Do it.
Those quail milkers. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
That's all I want to do.
Oh, man. It's FANAGAR, baby.
Oh, yeah, we're still in that.
Yeah, it's still June, baby.
Cool.
Wow, nice.
How do you say the title? Is it Chinese?
I have no idea how to say it.
Oh, okay.
But
try.
Google tells me it's Chinese for Justice League of China.
Oh.
Which this week we're talking about Kong Kenan, and I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Chris Chan told me how to do it. Now I'm like really second guessing whether I've done it right.
Those mallard milkers.
Mallard milkers, that's the one. Fuck. That's fucking good, yeah.
Sorry, I needed to get that.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, this week we're talking about Kong Kenan, the new Superman, and we're talking about the Justice League of China, which is sort of like a stable of characters we haven't really talked about all that much before. Have you encountered them in your stuff? Because like Kong Kenan shows up in like some Action Comics and like, here and there. Have you haven't encountered any of the Justice League of China at all?
No, not really. No.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. We've been to Japan a little bit in my reading, but...
Sure. Oh, yeah, that one Action Comics run. Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But no.
Well, that should be a good one then. This is all like basically post-Flashpoint era sort of stuff. So relatively new comics, but some interesting characters.
Absolutely.
Tits.
That's all I want to do.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. We got this under control.
Okay. Anytime you want to do it again, though, you just let me know.
waiting for you, man.
I'm trying to think of something for knockers.
Oh, yeah. Emu knockers. I guess you don't really go for emu breasts.
No. But emo breasts.
Okay. All right. We're getting further from it.
Yeah. Ostrich knockers.
What a cool grade 11 band you just named. We're ostrich knockers. Welcome to homecoming.
I mean,
all the burnouts playing ostrich knockers.
Yeah,
that's a burnout band.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's get into it.
Fuck. Let's start over on Facebook.
Going to the face and the book. Going to the Facebook.
First question comes from Jamie Edmond, who asks, has the Justice League of China interacted with the Great Ten in any stories?
So, interesting. We got to set the table a little bit here. So, the Justice League of China is like it's initially formed by, I think they call it the Ministry of Self-Reliance. So the Chinese government wants to basically make analogs to the Justice League.
Turkey deeds.
Good. I don't want to get our wires crossed here. That's good.
Thank you.
I'm going to lose my train of thought.
Okay.
The Chinese government wants basically analogs to the Justice League to protect Chinese interests. So Kong Kenan is the new Superman. He has pseudo Kryptonian powers. He has a slightly convoluted powers history. But then there's Bai Jin Wang is the Batman of China. There's a Wonder Woman of China who is not an Amazon but has, strength, and she has like a whip instead of a lasso. There's kind of like a dragon person who's sort of like the Aquaman.
Yep.
There's basically analogs for Justice Leaguers. The idea is that the Chinese government was experimenting with a Western-style superhero, but to protect their interests. The Great 10 are an older Chinese national super team that includes characters that we've maybe mentioned in passing before, like August General in Iron, or Accomplished Perfect Physician, or the Ghost Fox Killer, or stuff like that. So they're a Chinese super team, but they aren't like, well, you're Superman, you're Green Lantern, you're whatever. They are just their own characters, and we'll talk about it later. But they're sort of based on a particular Chinese myth. Have those two teams met? I can't remember if the teams have met, but I'm pretty sure that while the New 52 Superman was dying, because for a while there, both the New 52 Superman and the New Earth Superman, like the pre-Flashpoint Superman, existed in continuity at the same time. While the New 52 Superman was dying, they did have an encounter with the Great 10 in China. And that's during a story in which Kong Kenan getting his powers is part of the story. I can't remember if there's actually been a full-on Justice League of China Great 10 meeting. But the Great 10 have, they've been around. They've encountered the main Justice League before, for sure. I think Kong Kenan has probably met them, for sure. And they're referenced in a lot of other things. Like they're in... the Great 10 might be referenced in Final Crisis. They're definitely referenced in Doomsday Clock. They've come up in other stories, especially August General in Iron. I think he was in the New 52 Justice League International. And stuff like that. So that's a team that's been around before, and they're kind of like the more long established Chinese super team. The Justice League of China is a relatively new idea. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's leave Facebook and head on over to Twitter.
Twitter.
Also, Grouse Globes. I'll try to come up with a new one every time.
I mean, Globes is somehow worse. That's worse than saying tits.
Chicken titties.
Globes. Check out the globes. Like, oh, God. It's like watching your grandpa hit on a waitress.
Hey, look at the globes
I
on that.
don't like it. It's gross. Yeah. That's not for me.
First question from Twitter.
Okay.
Comes from...
I'm going to laugh so hard if you don't edit that enormous silence out. Because I know you won't.
I do. I always
do.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if you look at the waveform when you do stuff.
I do.
Oh, okay, okay.
Stuff like that I look for.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's the stuff I look for.
Oh, I don't know.
Otherwise, I don't care.
Well, I didn't even know if you looked at it. You just went like, no.
No, I don't think I get like pre-intros and stuff like that. I do some work.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Dick.
I don't know.
Anyways.
You left last episode. You left in a whole bit about you calling a very nice resident Armpit Patel.
That's why I just laughed actually, because Armpit is asking another question.
Armpit.
Armpit asks,
or Arpit. I don't know how you pronounce your name.
Or Arpit.
Well, that's what I tried to hit that, and then I fucked it up.
Yeah, I love when you try to do good and end up being bad. I just am bad, and people are
no
like,
one fucking calls you out. They don't fucking love you.
So Armpit asks, how
dare you? He's such a nice fellow. Probably.
Yeah, which is
I don't know him. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't vouch for him.
Yeah, you don't know what he's capable of.
Jesus. Good Lord. What he's capable of? Holy shit.
I believe you're able to do anything, including murder.
That's a Ben Folds song, Capable of Anything. The
Whoa.
whole joke in that song is the dual meaning.
Oh.
Yeah.
How is Wonder Woman of China's lasso different from the other lassos? Truth, persuasion, submission, lightning, lies.
So there's a number of lassos out there in DC.
Your Teds.
You got Ted et al. So Diana obviously has the lasso of truth. We know how that works. Also known as the lasso of Hestia. Compels you to tell the truth. That can mean a lot of different things. It could mean a truth you believe, like a subjective truth. It could mean sometimes it's revealed objective truths. It's got, it's pretty open to interpretation. Donna Troy has the lasso of persuasion. If you get caught by her lasso, she can compel you to do things, but only if her will is stronger than yours.
Oh.
The lasso of truth, it's just you tell the truth. That's it.
Sure.
No matter kind of who's wielding it. We see that all the time. Someone else uses it and it does the same job. The lasso of persuasion is whoever has the stronger will kind of controls how that one works. There's the lasso of submission, which the Superwoman from Earth 3 has. So that's the evil version of Wonder Woman from Earth 3. The lasso of submission basically just like makes you do something you don't want to do. It's a stronger version of the lasso of persuasion, basically. So for the Wonder Woman of China, whose name I can't remember, but I'm going to look up right now. She has like a magic whip, because she is like actually a mythical snake.
Oh.
There's a Chinese myth about a green snake and a white snake, and I'm gonna fuck up the actual.
Fucking love White Snake. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Here I go again on my own. Is that White Snake? Yeah.
Going down the only road I've ever known.
Like a hobo.
That's Foreigner. That's Foreigner.
That's Foreigner?
Yeah.
Here I go again?
Yeah.
That's not White Snake?
No.
At any rate, there's a Chinese myth about a green snake and a white snake. I'm going to fuck up the actual myth. But essentially, the Wonder Woman of China, whose name is Peng Delan, she is one of those snakes that can harness like the power of chi to take on a human form. Now she can like transform back into like snake form. She has to kind of like focus to be in human form, but she's got she's immortal, she's strong, she's got durability, all that kind of stuff, and then she has like a whip that I think is made of her own like snake skin or something like that. Like it has the whip she has something to do with her being a snake.
Okay.
So it's not like a separate lasso or something. It's like part of her being. But essentially, they call her the Wonder Woman of China because she's super strong, nigh immortal, kind of demigod figure with a rope weapon,
thing,
you know? So she ends up being Wonder Woman. But she's not an Amazon at all. She comes from Chinese myths. She's one of these like mythical snakes.
So she doesn't have a lasso.
It's not a lasso. No, it's more of like a whip.
Sure.
Like having just like a rope weapon, like a rope dart or something that kind of thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Classic Comics, who asks, best interaction with Superman?
For Kong Kenan, best interaction. That's tricky. I mean, Kong Kenan's an interesting character because he kind of starts off as like a real dick. Like he's a bully. He's abrasive.
Mm-hmm.
He's sort of thick-headed. Like he's not exactly the person you'd think of to be an inheritor of the Superman mantle.
Sure.
Even more than some like early days like Con-El or something like that. You know, like back when Superboy had like the leather jacket, I'd be like, oh, he's a punk. He doesn't, he's anti-establishment. That's not Superman or whatever. Even Con-El still felt more like Superman, I think, than Kong Kenan, because Kong Kenan had this kind of like chip on his shoulder sort of energy. I don't know that I can think of my favorite interaction, but a relatively recent one that I like is not. I think it shows the difference in their characters between Clark and Kenan. Is in the current Action Comics run, they've been fighting Metallo, and they stop Metallo, and Kenan says something like, is this all we're good for? Is just like, we'll just put him back in prison, he'll get out, he'll do this again, or Metallo's injured and Superman's like, we gotta help him, and he's like, why? He's just gonna do this shit again. And he's not wrong, but Superman says, because like if he dies now, he'll always be like this. He doesn't get the chance to undo it. Like, you know, and so Clark is always like, we save them because he shouldn't end like this. He should have the chance to do better, to be better, or things like that. And I don't think that's a concept that is like, I don't think Kong Kenan necessarily disagrees, but I think it's not his instinct to think that way. So I think like being, you know, working with Superman is kind of interesting, because he does have to learn a little bit more about that kind of level of like patience and empathy and that sort of thing, which I think is interesting. You know, a lot of Kenan's journey too is about like kind of centering himself, not being like too rash or too aggressive or too solitary, like not even wanting to work with a team or stuff like that. So I do think it's interesting to have an interaction like that where you kind of show their differences, but you also like right away, as soon as Clark says that, Kenan says like, I hope you're right. You know, he might not 100% be convinced, but he doesn't fight him. He doesn't like, he doesn't say like, no, we're going to put him down now. Like, he's not like digging his heels in. Yeah. It's just like, it's interesting just to show that like, that's not his first instinct.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from our favorite religious representative,
Chris Chan.
That's right. Who asks, Superman is positioned as the patriarchal figure of the DC superheroes. As a Chinese counterpart, should Kenan, what is it?
Kenan. The way Chris Chan described it to me is that it's pronounced like Lenin.
Okay. Is Kenan fit a similar role, or would he rather stay younger and be much more of a Peter Parker superhero? Would you rather that he is younger and more of a Peter Parker type hero?
I don't think I'd want that. Yeah. No, I don't, because I know where it's coming from, and Kenan is relatively young.
Sure.
You know, but I think I prefer a version of him that, even if he doesn't become like fully the role Superman has, but in China, just someone a little bit more kind of leadership and like those kind of quality. Not to say Spider-Man and characters like that don't have that.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think Kenan is fundamentally different from a character like Blue Beetle or Sideways or, you know, like those, or Crush, or like some of those other like teen kind of characters. Like I would prefer to see a slightly more elevated role for Kenan, I think. And the more that I'm thinking about it too, it's interesting. You know, the Justice League of China is more or less a quote unquote failed experiment by the Chinese government. Failed in that they don't control them, really. You know what I mean? Yeah. The Justice League of China just operates trying to do good and stuff like that, not necessarily under the compulsion of what the Chinese government wants them to do. It'd be interesting, you know, to have the Great 10 be more like the Justice Society. They've been around longer. They're kind of like, you know, August General and Iron is almost like your like your Alan Scott over there. And then you'd have this kind of Justice League of China generation of heroes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those generations don't line up with their counterparts, but if they had a similar relationship, the way the Justice Society and the Justice League interact could be how the Great Ten and the JLC interact. That's kind of an interesting idea to me. And if you're doing that, then it makes some sense to have Kenan take on at least some of the sort of narrative role of Clark, of like the actual Superman,
Yeah. Woodcock cans.
Wow. We're getting further from it, I think. Although I do like the word cans.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, pheasant cans.
I think pheasant can. I was just gonna say pheasant. You get me.
Yeah, my soulmate.
I fucking love you, man.
Love you.
Yeah.
Food boobies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next question comes from Green Lantern Corps Reddit community,
Okay.
who asks, How does Lantern Corps of China have access to Green Lantern powers? Why Guardian / GLC doesn't intervene? Also, is it possible for them to be the precursor to the Earth Corps from 26th century from Jessica and Simon's story?
Such a specific question. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't remember what / if the explanation is of the Lantern Corps of China.
Chad,
but at the end of one of the arcs of New Superman and the Justice League of China, that book,
yeah,
it's kind of right after Kong kind of gets like a power revamp a little bit. Kong, this is his last name, Kenan, gets a power revamp. He initially has powers that are sort of like he's infused with like the kind of like the chi of the dying New 52 Superman.
Okay.
And he kind of has like, he basically has like Kryptonian powers. And then later the retcon is that he's actually like the avatar of like yin and yang.
Okay.
And his powers, there's a word for it. There's like a circle of 8 kind of like, I don't know the word, but you know how like in chakras and like Indian things, there's like different kind of like houses for
sure.
Things.
Yeah.
There's like a circle of 8 areas, and they correspond to body parts for Kenan, and they're the different ways for him to focus his chi to access powers that are essentially Kryptonian. So there's one about vision, and there's one about like senses, and there's one about strength, and there's one about invulnerability, and they're all kind of connected in this sort of kind of like spiritual circle. At the end of an arc where all of that kind of comes to light and Kenan's powers get revamped, Opagua, that's the name of the thing. At the end of that arc, the Chinese government, that Ministry of Self-Reliance is like, well, fuck, all these Western superheroes. This isn't working. They're too individual. They're not doing what we want. We shouldn't have made a Justice League. We should have made a Corps.
Sure.
The reveal is that there's this Lantern Corps of China, and then you go like, where did they get this power or stuff like that? That little piece, I actually don't remember. I don't remember if it's actually channeling the green light of will, or if it's just like an artificial thing that kind of replicates it. But there are, like to pull from out of continuity, in something like Superman Red Sun, the American government takes an actual Green Lantern ring and manages to like reverse engineer the power.
Oh, wow.
And they make a Lantern Corps. Like how
that's crazy.
That just kind of like fly to Russia to stop, So it's not the only time that could have happened. It could be like legitimate, like lantern power, but I don't remember if that's actually the case with them or not. That's a very good question, and I'm not sure. As for the Earth Corps, there's no specific connection made as far as I know, but that's as good a sort of like thing as if in some way someone managed to crack that Owen technology on Earth, it's not outrageous to assume that then in the 26th century there's some sort of extension of that. Yeah. I think that's a totally fine like headcanon thing to have, but I don't think that there's anything more concrete than that in the comics.
All right. Well, with that, let's go to the next question from Alex Jaffe. Alex Jaffe,
Okay.
who asks, if he's the leader of his own team, why is he just kind of hanging out with Superman's family in Metropolis right now?
Oh, I mean, he's allowed. Jesus, characters all hang out with other groups, you know. They got the Justice League. They got their own families. They got all that kind of stuff.
Is Alex Jaffe asking why doesn't he go back where he came from?
That's what it sounds like. I never thought I'd see the day. Really showing your true colors, Jaffe.
Yeah, God bless America,
Jesus,
Jaffe.
good Lord. We really shouldn't be platforming this kind of... I can't quite remember where we leave off with the Justice League of China, but yeah, I mean, I assume they're still going on adventures, but I like Kenan still being connected to the Superman, even though his powers have evolved, that it's more kind of chi based, that he has these bagua, that he has he's like this, he has a new symbol now. It used to just be an S. But now it's like an S made of the yin and yang.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a cool ass symbol, and I like him having all those new powers. But he's still essentially got a pseudo Kryptonian origin in that he has. I think some of the new 52 Superman's blood was used to give him powers, but then also I think he has new 52 Superman's life force or chi was in him. Okay. Now that gets messy because of Superman Reborn, which then new 52 Superman died. Kong Kenan got powers. Pre-Flashpoint Superman was I'll be the Superman now. And then there was a story called Superman Reborn that retconned it again so that they were all one Superman.
Oh.
So that is kind of, I think, partly to why Kenan's powers got retconned a bit.
Yeah.
Because the existence of New 52 Superman kind of got changed. So, but I like him hanging out with the Superman family in the way that I like Avery Ho, the Flash of China, hanging out with the Flash family. Now it's, slightly different, I suppose, because she was in Central City during the Speed Force storm. That's where she gets her powers. But then she's gone off and she's had adventures with Justice League, Justice Incarnate, the multiverse Justice League.
Yeah.
She's had adventures with the Justice League of China. She's had adventures with the Flash family. I think you get to do a little bit of both. I think we can assume that between stories or between pages or whatever, Kenan's having some adventure with the Justice League of China as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's fine. That doesn't bother me.
All right, let's leave Twitter and head on over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
First question comes from Liam K. Willis. What you ask about, Willis? Who asks, essential reading?
Well, you could start with the last arc of the new 52 Superman, which I think is called The Last Days of Superman.
Mm.
I'd start with that because that sort of sets up some of those pieces. And then there is a new Superman book. It's Superman with a dash between.
Sure.
And then it gets a title change to New Superman and the Justice League of China. It runs for 20 some odd issues, but that's the big essential reading for Kong Kenan, I would say. I mean, he's been in the kind of current Action Comics run, which is interesting too, but really you're just going to want to read that book. You're going to want to read New Superman.
Yeah.
That's the shit. Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, next question from That D the Geek, who asks,
That D the Geek.
Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah. Some geeks, they know you better. That D.
No.
Fuck.
No.
Shit. Oh no.
Don't worry. I'll save it. Quail cantaloupes.
Nice. Jesus, we're getting so far from it.
Swan bacon hangers.
Bacon hangers. Jesus. Good Lord. Crane memories. Memories.
All alone in dove puppies.
Puppies?
Yeah.
Is that a...
Yeah.
Oh. People say that?
You look at the puppies on those.
Really?
Yeah.
But to mean... I don't know
Yeah.
what else that would mean, but... Puppies?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you say like, oh, check out those puppies. But in general, I just thought that was like... You sub that in for anything. Like, you see a couple of, cool cars driving, be like, check out those puppies. You just mean the cool cars. It means tits?
Swan swingers.
Okay, we're spending too much time on tits.
A thing no one ever said.
I mean, certainly not on this show.
No. That D the Geek asks, I know absolutely nothing about this character. What is his origin?
So, like I said, his origin's slightly complicated, but he was sort of I think he signed up for an experiment to give him powers, the powers of Superman. China had been trying to create their own Superman. And it's, like I said, it's in publishing terms, it's tied to the death of New 52 Superman. In continuity, that gets muddy because of Superman Reborn.
Yeah.
But he essentially has pseudo-Kryptonian powers. Like, kryptonite will hurt him, but because his powers aren't 100% Kryptonian, it won't kill him. His powers are chi-based, and as he focuses, he sort of had a thing where he could only focus his chi in sort of one area at a time. So he almost had like a Ultra Boy sort of thing where he had the powers of Superman, but he'd only kind of use them one at a time.
Sure.
That is no longer the case. He sort of unlocked his full potential as this sort of avatar of yin and yang. One of his enemies, one of the enemies of the JLC, was called the All Yang, which was like all the kind of the negative or dark energies.
Sure. Okay.
And then I Ching, which was like one of his teachers, his mentors, was like the yin force, all kind of the light and the positive in that. And he is the balance between them. So, yeah, I mean, his origins are sort of science experiment, but then also kind of unlocking this other kind of more spiritual piece, which I find interesting for a super character to kind of have both.
Yeah.
You know, like I kind of like that. What else should you know about him? I can't remember or not, but it's is Superman Zero his father? There was a first attempt of the Chinese government of making a Superman.
Okay.
And he kind of goes nuts. He's alternatively called Superman Zero or Emperor Superman, and they have to defeat him. He's sort of like an evil version, basically, of Kenan Kong. Kind of like a Black Adam to his Shazam, even.
Okay.
Just that sort of idea. His mother was part of a, quote, terrorist group called the Freedom Fighters, who are in their own, in the way that the Justice League of China are like, there's a Batman, there's a Wonder Woman, there's a whatever. The Freedom Fighters in China are kind of have that too. There's a blue condor instead of a black condor.
Oh, sure.
Like the actual Freedom Fighters team. Like this is sort of weird. It's just kind of funny that they're like direct analogs a little bit. And his mom is killed as a member of that team. But yeah, I mean, he's an interesting character. It's worth checking out. But yeah, the origin of his powers is slightly muddy, but it's part science experiment, part unlocking a sort of inner spiritual connection. Yeah.
What about his brother Donkey?
That feels offensive.
It's more of a name joke than it is like a cultural thing.
Come on, man.
Donkey Kong?
Get it together.
It's pretty good. Next question. From Copy 801, who asks, how do you feel about Kong being rolled into the Superman family in Action Comics? Do you feel that he should only be part of the Justice League of China?
Well, like I said, that doesn't bother me. I like when people have adventures with different groups. People are allowed to have different groups of friends. Anyone that tells you otherwise is toxic.
Oh, that's good. So I'm allowed to have different friends?
If you even look at Brian.
I didn't even say his name.
You think I don't know? You're thinking about him right now, aren't you?
It's been a while since I've seen him. I wonder what he's doing.
Well, it'll be a lot longer.
What's his name? Kevin, who helps you build shit?
His name is Nick.
Whatever.
Get his name out of your fucking mouth.
Fucking, I don't want to put dick in my mouth.
Nick.
Sick.
Anyway. It doesn't bother me when people have adventures with different groups. I think that helps just like fill out the world, right? You know, your boy loves when stuff's interconnected. I love like, the lore of those kind of things. So that shit doesn't bother me. I will say, though, it's not about Kong Kenan specifically, but I do feel like we still haven't totally got a handle on the balance of how big the Superman family is yet. Like, even the Bat family, like, they don't all show up in a book all the time. Yeah. That's too many things to juggle. So the Batgirls are kind of a subgroup over here, and something. But like
it's action, the group I want to be a part of.
But action, subgroup. Yeah. But Action Comics right now is like we've got Superman and Lois, and we have the Philosian twins he rescued from Warworld.
Is that a type of bird rest?
No.
The Philosian twins.
No. Jesus Christ.
You get this pretty good.
Check out the Philosian twins on Jesus Christ. So it's Superman, Lois, the two Philosian twins. And then there's also John, Connor, Kara, Kenan, and then John Henry Irons, Natasha Irons. Like, the Superman family right now is a lot of people basically living under the same roof and working together all the time. And
things start to get real.
It's nice in some ways to see the different character interactions, but it's also like you've got like 12 Kryptonians in Metropolis right now. It's
fucking Luther's nightmare.
Like, I mean, it's a little insane.
Yeah.
And I still don't know that we 100% have a handle on how to, because in a backup story, we have Power Girl. She's not even in the main thing, but Power Girl's over there too. You know, like there's a lot to juggle, and I'm not 100% sure that we've figured it out. Mm-hmm. So it might just be overcrowded right now, but I don't think that is Kenan's fault. I think it's just because all of them are there all the time. There's a version of this where someone else goes away, but Kenan sticks around and it feels fine too, you know? So that's kind of my feelings on it.
You know what feels fine? Those Philosian twins.
Jesus Christ.
All right, let's leave Instagram and head on over.
The thing that bugs me the most is that you're right. It sounds exactly like what we're talking about.
It's just, how am I supposed to not say something?
I can't take issue with the premise, just that it happened.
You're just mad that you said it.
I'm just mad I didn't. Like,
you didn't make the joke first.
Yeah, that's mostly what I'm mad about.
All right, let's leave Instagram and head on over to Reddit,
where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
From OKLinks862, who asks, "What other characters would you like to see on the JLC?"
Okay, so Kong Kenan is the Superman.
Yep.
Baixing Wang is the Batman of China, he's sort of like an inventor in that he's actually like a little bit overweight, which I kind of like. There's like a different body type on the team. He's not exactly like our Batman. Like, his thing is all tech. He built a robot Robin, and he's more like a kind of like an Iron Man thing. He kind of compensates physically with all this extra tech and stuff that. Yeah. There's Wonder Woman, who's one of these kind of mythical snake beings.
Yep.
There's the he's called the Dragon Son, I think, and that's the sort of half human, half dragon that is like the Aquaman.
Dragon son, won't you come? Fire.
Well, it's water.
Water.
Water dragon.
Every place.
Avery Ho is the Flash of China, and again, she was in Central City during the Speed Force storm. She's worked with the Flash family a bunch.
Yeah.
And we know that there's the Lantern Corps of China, a slightly different entity from.
Yes.
But the question is, what other analogs would we want to see on a Justice League of China? I guess it might be interesting if there was some sort of like MK Ultra thing that made like a quote Martian Manhunter of China.
Yeah.
But you'd obviously have a different name. They wouldn't necessarily be Martian unless they got their hands on some DNA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if there was some kind of like psychic telekinetic program, like an MK Ultra, and then you ended up with like a Manhunter of China kind of thing, might be sort of interesting. That might be kind of cool.
It would be interesting to see what you could do with a Shazam.
That one's I mean, not impossible. Like right now in the comics, Billy is the only one who gets his powers from Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, Mercury.
Yeah.
Because Mary Marvel now gets her powers from female patron gods. The Amazons basically broker a new Shazam deal for her. So she's her own thing separate from Billy. So she has different goddesses. And Black Adam, of course, has Egyptian ones. There's nothing to say you couldn't broker some kind of deal with Chinese mythological spirits or gods or whatever, deities, to have a Shazam.
Yeah.
But again, the only thing in there is like, what does it? If the idea of the Justice League of China is that this is like a government thing, even though they kind of don't 100% do what the government wants, they all kind of exist because of these experiments or these sort of things like that. So you'd have to just come up with like how did a government, what sort of black ops group was dealing in magic and managed to like make those deals, like to broker that Shazam arrangement or whatever. It's an interesting idea. I think there's stuff in there. That's kind of cool.
I can't say it.
Wow. That's how you know it's bad. I think what another. I mean, technically, you could come up with something for any of them, but to me, I guess the only one that really springs to mind that feels like it fits with the mode is the Manhunter thing.
Yeah,
but Manhunter and Shazam are both solid, I think.
Yeah. All right, from Go Speed Racer Go. Can JLC beat the JLU team, the show with all members?
So that JLU meaning Justice League Unlimited, like the cartoon. Yeah. And on that cartoon, basically every superhero was a member of the Justice League.
Oh, sure.
The answer is no. Definitively no. The Justice League of China has done good work.
Yeah.
And they can be heroes. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But they also are novices. When they meet the Justice League, they go like, oh my God, what do you think? Like, do you like what I've been doing? Like, they're kind of starstruck a little bit. Like, they're novices. And there's only like 5 of them. The JLU is every superhero, including the big guns. Superman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Hawkgirl, Green Lantern. But the Justice League of China couldn't handle the whole Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
That's too much. That's crazy.
Yes, absolutely.
They're capable heroes, but the premise here is just so unfair to them.
No.
There's no version of that.
No.
Yeah. I would also say like against the Justice League, unless it was sort of like, they kind of maybe just get the drop on them. I don't think they could just beat a team of only their Justice League counterparts.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave Reddit and head on over to the Doc Squad.
Fuck. Hang on. Okay, all right. It's a doc scored time. In a doc scored, I'm a doc's little scored. In a doc scored to doc's my scored.
What?
I was trying to do Lizzo.
Oh, it's a doc's damn time.
Yeah. It's a doc's damn scored. I think it's probably better, yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Yo Crowo.
God, I hate that.
You started it.
I know, but look what I've done.
You Crowo? Who asks, this is a hard one to put a Dick and Down theme to. I like that this is his new thing, his new shtick.
It's not the summer of Dick and Down. I don't know where this came from.
Yeah, wasn't that like a last summer?
I mean, was it?
I don't know. I was pretty horny last year.
Cool, man. That's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then nothing bad happened after that.
Nope.
But let's
didn't blow up at all.
Certainly
Easy.
Blew up in some way.
Easy.
You know what I mean?
Easy.
You get what I'm talking about? Got to get those pigeon bongos.
Fuck you.
All right. But let's give it a shot. Baxi Wang is a government-appointed Batman. But do you think that changes his overall mindset on crime and ways of justice, considering he didn't get dicked down by tragedy and a pearl necklace like his American equivalent did? And does his way of bat entry make him a better Batman because no tragedy was involved?
Yeah. Yeah, Baiji is interesting. So the Batman of China basically doesn't have a tragic backstory, is a very smart, relatively rich character who's a master inventor. Robin Bot is his sidekick. It kind of almost looks like Eve from WALL-E.
Oh, cute.
But in Robin colors.
Oh, that's cute.
So sort of like droid kind of sidekick. It is interesting. It is that kind of thing of like all of the wealth and excess of Batman without necessarily like the stuff that shapes Batman into like a really resilient hero, which I don't think is like inherently bad, but it's an interesting take, right? Like on the Justice League, Batman, when you have Batman on your team and you're the Justice League, you always have a plan and you have someone that will not fucking quit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Baiji's not really that guy. Baiji is like almost, I'd say almost a chaos bringer on the team because of all the tech and like, well, I could solve this. And you go like, well, you didn't really think of that. Like there's kind of like a over-eager kind of thing. Like Batman's more careful and more measured in that. And I think Baiji's a little bit more, I don't know, maybe views problems as being simpler than they are. I'm also like being slightly reductive about this, but just painting with a broad brush, like
it does feel a bit like Iron Man. Yeah,
there's some of those differences between them a bit, which is like, well, I've got a thing to fix that. You're like, well, do you?
It does feel like
like
Iron Man,
Batman is a lot more like Batman always knows like that's not actually gonna solve anything, or that just bought me 20 seconds, or you know what I mean. They have very different approaches. I think that makes for an interesting character, though, and I like, especially in the context of a book where the government is trying to replicate, like, superheroes, that they go, well, what are their abilities? And the government just goes like, we need someone strong. We need someone with, like, we need, like, an immortal demigod. We need, someone with a lot of tech. We need whatever. And they've missed the fact that, like, the American government didn't make the Justice League. They couldn't. The Justice League made themselves. They're all born like organically.
Sure.
So the ultimate reason why the Justice League of China doesn't work the way the Chinese government wants it to is because they maybe put them together. They gave them, in some cases gave them their abilities or gave them their costumes or whatever. Mm-hmm. But through their own adventures, they formed themselves into the heroes they're going to be, right? And the heroes they're going to be are modeled after the Justice League. They want to do good. They don't want to wait for a government to tell them when to go in somewhere to help people. They want to just help. And so I kind of like the idea that even though they've missed like a crucial part of the origins of some of these characters, the things that define them and make them who they are, that they kind of, by virtue of being named, like having namesakes in that, they end up on the same path. Like Baiji and Bruce are not at all personality-wise the same. But they both want to do good and they want to help and stuff like that. They got very different ways of doing it. But neither of them are content to just listen to the government, wait for them to say, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of accidentally half make a Batman, you know? Like, I find that interesting.
Yeah.
It's a similar idea, treated very differently, that is explored in, like, Justice League 3000, when they were cloning the Justice League, but they didn't have all their memories, and they were missing bits, and you make a Superman that doesn't have, like, the upbringing from the Kents, so he's a little bit more brash and, like, kind of a braggadocious and stuff like that, or you have like you're kind of missing chunks of who they are, what makes them, but they still end up being heroes. It's not done the same way, but there's a similar thing that's happening in Justice League of China that I find interesting and fun.
Totally, I love that. All right, next question comes from Only Just Dan, who asks again. What unexplored corners of Kenan's world would you like Yang to dive into?
Right, so Gene Luen Yang, who's the writer of New Superman, also wrote like Superman Smashes the Klan, like some really Monkey Prince, some awesome stuff. I would, God, what would I want to dive into? I mean, I think I personally, even though I've read the book, I still don't think I fully understand the kind of like the celestial structure of the chi thing. Those like Bagua, there's like 8, and they all manifest at different parts of the body.
Yeah.
And the one arc does a pretty good job of trying to spell it out, but I think I just, as like a Westerner, I got no connection to like Chinese myth and stuff like that. I just be more interested in learning more about that. I think tied along with that is like learning a bit more about the snake thing, learning a bit more, but like, I guess I just want more. I want more of. I guess I want more mythology stuff, but at the same time, that's not the only thing I want, because like that's not. I like some of that stuff with the Justice League, but half that stuff's just like made up shit too. It's interesting in comics, I think, when you're finally exploring maybe like a culture that doesn't get explored that much, it's way more based in a real, you know what I mean? Where it's like white people were just like, I don't know, Octon, Orb of Ra, Metamorpho.
Well, it's
like,
just like
there's no, like, no one in Egypt is like, oh yeah, the Element Man, that was part of our myth. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not borrowing that from our own.
You know, is that just because we're lacking more of that stuff? Like,
no, we're not lacking that shit at all, but like,
because I mean, like, how much mythology do we have as like Westerners?
Well, but I mean, it depends where you come. There's a ton of Celtic mythology. You got like Tir na Nog,
but again, that's pulling from other parts,
Kyranos and stuff like. Well, no, I mean that's like Celtic kind of. That's there. You know, you just mean like what, like Canadian,
like North American. I guess.
I know, but that's also. I mean, we like barely exist as.
But that's what I mean. Like, that's where all of our characters are from, and I think that's part of the problem is that I think we're just lacking mythology.
But I mean, but even other like white, like European ones, like we barely explore the Norse origins of a character like Ice, like Tora Olafsdottir and stuff like that. Like, those are so tangential and stuff like that. So there's a part of me, in one respect, that if there's more Justice League of China, I'd like to learn more of the mythology piece. But I think it's like unfair to pigeonhole that book into being that, when it's like every other character just gets to be whatever they are. They don't have to be tied to the myth of the place where they are, you know? So I don't know, slightly tough for me to answer, but as an interest's sake, I like the myth kind of pieces. So more stuff with Chi. I'd like to learn more about how Chi works, because, you know, Wonder Woman of China accesses, you know, Chi. That's how she focuses her energy, her own, you know, to take on a human form. Obviously, Kong Kenan, you know, he focuses through those like Bagua to get different kind of Kryptonian style powers out of balancing is chi. I'd like to learn more about just like, what does that mean? What is like life force? Like, what are we talking, like cosmically in DC? What does that mean? What's another character that maybe uses something similar, but they're not calling it chi? I'd like to draw maybe more of those, like, what are the celestial connections, like the lore piece of those that maybe we've been talking about the whole time, but now we finally have a better language for it because this myth actually has like a structure to a thing that before we were just like, I don't know, it's kind of like this.
Sure.
You know, like when you learn a language and they've got a word for a thing that we don't have a word for, and you go like, fuck, that's...
Yeah.
I feel like there's like that also applies to things that aren't words, like just to concepts and beliefs and things like that. And I think I'd like to see, how do we take these ideas that we're exploring here? Where have they already existed? Or like, if you look at like, I'm just going to pull something out of random, but like you look at a Spectre comic, be like, they were dancing around. They could never find the right word for years in a Spectre comic to describe like what that power is, or for Phantom Stranger or something. And you look over here and they go like, oh, it's chi. Like, you know, like the different names for the things. And you're like, oh, fuck, it's that.
Yeah.
I'd love to see
then it's like,
some
we
connections made.
The Spectre was actually this the whole time.
You know what I mean? It's not a big retcon or anything like that, but it's just like we finally have a language, or like
rather than forcing them
or
into
semiotics
like
or a
shit.
Structure to a thing. It's like that just works better. Let's apply it over. Like,
yeah,
I'd like that.
That would be rad.
Because I'm, you know, that's the lore geek side of me.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. It works one way, it can work the other.
Yeah.
All right. Next question from Ensign Ricky, who asks, do you guys prefer the Great Ten or the Justice League of China, considering one is more based in traditional Chinese mythology and the other one is more of a reflection of Chinese capitalism, just manufacturing American knockoffs?
See, that's interesting. And I won't say it's necessarily unintentional, but I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
But it's an interesting interpretation of it. So let's talk about the Great Ten. I mentioned, I mentioned them before. We talked a little bit about them. They are loosely based, I believe, on a myth, a Chinese myth called the 10 Brothers, which is a legend about these 10 brothers that kind of have mythical powers. So, the first brother could see miles away with binocular eyes. The second one could hear from miles away. The third had like incredible strength. One could stretch and be invincible. One could fly. One could grow. One could tunnel. One could heal any illness if they cried on someone. So like they all had these sort of outrageous abilities. And if you look at the makeup of the Great Ten, I believe it lines up more or less to those powers.
That's cool.
Like accomplished perfect physician is probably that last brother, the one that could heal anything, you know? Yeah, we've got yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't line up quite as much as I wanted, but one has like tunneling underground in the actual myth, but then we have what do they call them? They call them Immortal Man in Darkness. So like I don't know if they're meant to be connected, but I do think there's an idea of, at least in the semiotics of, there are 10 heroes on this team with legendary powers. You're leaning on the idea of there was 10 brothers. Now we have the Great 10. Yeah. There's at least like a numerology kind of,
sure,
like a power to that number sort of piece. I find that interesting. But like I said, I mean, even though there is this kind of like quote knockoff sort of thing happening with the Justice League of China, Wonder Woman, that Peng Delan, she's of Chinese myth. She's either the green or the white snake. I can't remember. Yeah. But that comes from a myth. Like, she's no less a part of that than the Great Ten are. If anything, she's maybe more concretely that than the Great Ten are. Yeah. You know, I think that's, I like the idea of that interpretation. Yeah. That idea of the difference between sort of something more classic and maybe more like a folk tale, and something that's maybe a little bit more emblematic of like capitalism and brands and like that kind of thing. There's something a little. Well, I mean, it is manufactured by nature. That team is manufactured, So there's something kind of interesting in there. I don't know how deep that metaphor actually holds up, but I will say, especially with this new power set, Kenan is more tied to Chinese mythology than he ever has been. The Wonder Woman of China is very tied to Chinese mythology. The Dragon Son, you're bringing in this idea of like water dragons and like dragon spirits and stuff like that. Like that's Chinese mythology, like or just in general kind of East Asian mythology. I think there's dragon lore and stuff in Japan and stuff too, and things like that. The Justice League of China is not tied to those kind of things. So it's not quite as cut and dry as that question makes out, I don't think.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right, last question from Butt, who asks, there's a crossover story in Rebirth where Clark and Kenan are hanging out and conversing in Mandarin.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's established that Soups speaks several languages. Does Kenan have the same ability to pick up languages quickly?
I know he speaks Mandarin, he speaks English.
Does he speak Cantonese?
What I'm going to do right now is just look up these Bagua. So, I don't think any of them are necessarily tied to the Yeah, so Trigram 7 of the Bagua is called Chan. And that's when he focuses his chi into his head, but that allows him to fly. Other ones, he focuses his chi into his eyes. That's heat vision. His invulnerability is focusing his chi into his stomach. Interesting. I don't see anything about like his mind.
Sure.
Not explicitly. I do feel like that is a thing that is like a little bit. I think he probably could in some ways. It's never 100% really spelled out. Is it the Kryptonian part of Clark that makes him just so adept at learning things? Or is it the fact that he has super speed and great vision? He pays attention, between his hearing and vision. He has this excellent control of everything. Like he's, his super ventriloquism, you could argue, still exists in the fact that he can mimic any sound. Like,
sure,
he probably doesn't struggle with an accent the way although sometimes in books they talk about how his accent is weird, like when he speaks Kryptonian or something. It comes up sometimes. But my point is, we never really hammered down if it's his abilities that allow him to do all those things, or if being Kryptonian kind of like makes it easier for him, I feel like him learning Kryptonian is almost like a download of information too, like at the fortress or some shit like that.
I know Kryptonian.
Whoa. I suspect there's a version of this where Kenan probably could pick up a language more quickly. But I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say he couldn't do it as easily as Superman. But I do want to talk about a couple of powers that he has that Superman doesn't. So again, because his power set is slightly different, he can focus his chi into a kind of like, he has X-ray vision, but his vision can also penetrate magical illusions because he's tied to magic. So where Superman just has X-ray vision or microscopic vision or something like that, Kenan can actually look through magic. Like if someone puts up a spell, he can see through that illusion. So he has like some kind of different abilities that Clark does not have. He can vibrate his molecular structure at super speed, which I guess Superman might be able to do, but that Like that's almost like a Flash kind of ability that he has. Yeah, there's a couple of other things, but it's more that like he kind of. Oh, I think he can. What can he do? His yin abilities let him take on like a astral projection kind of thing. He could take on like a ghost form, and there's sort of like a spirit realm he can go
that's
to.
Fucking rad.
There's shit like that too that he can do that like obviously Clark cannot. So they have different abilities, and I don't feel bad saying that Clark's better at language learning.
Sure,
than Kong Kenan is, but yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, well, that was the last question. If you residents would like to send us a question for next week's episode.
Well, we don't know yet.
Oh.
But whoever the grand winner of the FANAGAR tournament of pandering is.
The grand wizard.
The grand winner. I shouldn't have framed it that way. I admit that, but I didn't say wizard. The grand winner.
Yeah.
Which is so wizard.
Yeah.
Whoever wins that, that's going to be the subject of the episode next week. So keep an eye out that the last couple of rounds of voting are happening on Twitter over the next couple of days or last couple of days. And the second chance tourney is wrapping up over on Patreon as well. But we will be reading a story and then talking about that and the sort of adjacent topics next week.
Yeah, boy. Well, you can reach out to us through our various social media platforms.
That's right. Dr. DC Podcast or Dr. DC on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
The doc phone is always open.
208-917-3238.
208-917-DCU.
If your milkers are duck.
Yeah, he's back. Go to
I fucking hate that.
Our website, drdcpodcast.com or .ca. Give us a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to this show on. If you want even more content, well, you can subscribe to our Patreon.
Patreon.com/DrDC. There's a $1, $5, $7 level. They all give you access to the Doc Squad, our awesome Discord fan community. And at the higher levels, of course, you get bonus episodes, theme pools, all sorts of fun stuff that helps to support us.
That's right. Wow. My brain just broke.
What just happened there?
I don't know.
Baby, you've barely touched your chicken knockers.
Well, if you want even more content from us,
boneless, skinless chicken knockers.
We've got. Come on, take your duck tits. That's the best one.
Duck tits. Ordering duck tits at a restaurant.
So fucking funny. Well, if you like this show, you might like our other one. Supernatural is a TV show. What the fuck? Yeah. Take it away.
Keep going.
Take it away.
You've got this. I believe in you.
Supernatural is a CW TV show that we made a podcast.
And what's it called?
Ghostfacers, a Supernatural rewatch.
Yeah, there we go, baby.
In which we go through every episode of that series.
Which series?
Supernatural.
Thank you.
It's a CW show.
It sure is. And we're the Ghostfacers.
That's right. And we talk about Supernatural.
Yeah, on Ghostfacers.
We're into season 7. What the fuck is wrong with me? So why don't you subscribe to that because it's fun and supernatural.
Good.
Ghost.
Good. Keep it going.
Supernatural. Ghostfacers. Supernatural. Ghostfacers.
Adios.
Supernatural. Boobs.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure, they are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.